Hello, I'm Steven, the calculator guy, and this is like my end of year mini recap because I am going to go see family, and I probably won't be back for a few whiles, but I wanted to talk about a few things in DeFi before I go. And there's a lot to talk about, but mostly like the state of forks I want to talk about. I want to talk about pseudo delta neutral strategies and sort of where my portfolio's at, and like basic de-risking, and then maybe do like an update on the charities and stuff. Okay, that sound good? So let's talk about forks first. My thesis or my theory, people say thesis a lot in crypto and it sounds kind of pretentious, but I like saying it too, coming from a bit of an academic background. So my theory, my thesis is that these forks are telescoping and diluting each other. And what I mean by that is that they're being pumped out at a faster rate. They're sort of like, they're exponentially growing. Like the amount of new forks is on an exponential curve, or maybe a logarithmic, I don't know. And so what's happening is that investors have to choose where to put their investments. And let's just say like the total amount of investment possible for these forks, like the amount of investor money that's interested in these forks is X amount. Now that's the numerator, and it gets divided by the number of forks, because that investment is going to be sprinkled into the amount of forks. And of course, some forks are going to have better social media. Some forks are going to have better connections with particularly large influencer groups, like, these private discords or whatever, where, that discord can generate some hype for that particular fork. But at the end of the day, these forks are diluting each other and, to my knowledge, have no external revenue model. And that's what I'm looking for in projects at this point in DeFi. So I don't know like who you guys follow, but basically the way DeFi works is it's a competitive sport, and you can either be it's like you can compete against each other, or you can compete against what I call the environment. Like it's PvE or PvP. To me, I call PvE where you're competing against like incentives. So occasionally you'll get foundations or VCs just pumping money into a blockchain, like incentivizing farming, incentivizing new protocols, and all of that. That's PvE, right? You're essentially just like competing with these protocols to get the most money out of them. And I like that. That's fun. That's exciting. It's really, it's not a zero-sum game. It's just like free money for anyone who wants to go onto these blockchains and go farm. And that's the happy-go-lucky side of crypto, of DeFi, right? When, a chain gets pumped up, we can go run over there, we can get some money. Now, then there's the PvP. So when these incentives dry up, then it sort of becomes survival of the quickest. The people who can get into the protocols early and then dump on the people who get in later. And in this model, people who get into protocols late lose. They lose money, they sort of lose in the sport, they lose in the game, and they can get bitter really quickly, and emotions can flare up, and it can be tragic because people can lose a lot of money because they were sold on the hype of the earlier investors. And I don't want to touch that at all. That's not the kind of space that I'm here for, and that's not the kind of atmosphere that I want to be in. So I think a lot of the forks that are now in that sphere where it's like we're not giving you incentive money that we got from a foundation or from VCs. What we're doing is we're creating a model through which early investors profit a lot, and their profit comes from later investors. And later investors, like the last few investors before the fork dies, and most of them are going to die within a month, they're going to get screwed. They're not going to make their money back, which is tragic. It sucks, right? It sucks a lot. And as this process telescopes, fewer and fewer people who are early are going to be profitable, which means a larger percentage of total investors are going to lose. And this isn't good. Like if you're in the elite investment group and you're totally scrupulous, you don't mind, sort of winning on the backs of others, which, hey, it's the Wild West out there. I'm not going to judge your ethics for trying to make money through your own investment intelligence. Like if you're able to get in early, go ahead, good for you, right? But it's going to be that a smaller and smaller group of people are going to be the early birds, and a larger and larger group of people are going to be still relatively early and still lose and still not get gains from protocols. And then forks, are going to disincentivize newer users because it's going to leave a bad taste in their mouth, and they're just going to not have anything to do with other similar protocols. So all of this just is to say that Ring forks, Ohm forks, Beanstalk forks, Tomb Finance forks, I see all of these things as escalating at an escalating rate. And fewer people are going to win, more people are going to lose, and I advise caution. I am going to do my best not to talk much about them anymore, because I think that right now we're in a very volatile place. And also, I'm following Ohm and Time with my, baby brain technical analysis abilities. So like when I'm looking at charts, if I'm thinking about like what is the state of the reserve currency markets, I'm looking at Time and I'm looking at Ohm. And for me it's super simple. I don't overthink it. I look at this, I look, when does the green line go above the purple line? If the green line goes above the purple line, I'm going to buy some time, sure. Because at that point, to me, my indicators say it's probably a good buy. I'm also going to look for the OBV to be like generally going upwards. And at that point, if the green is crossing the purple, almost certainly we're going to have a nice, bearish or bullish looking MACD. But that's what I'm looking for, and I don't see it yet. So, I am not yet of the mind that we have turned the corner on reserve currencies. If I look at Ohm, we have very similar charts that we're at 430. It looks like we're heading towards the purple line, but we haven't got there yet. And you can see there are a lot of instances where it almost looks like we're heading towards the purple, but we never get to it. And so, in my opinion, right now reserve currencies are not where the money's at. It doesn't look like a lot of people are pumping money into them, and so I am staying away from them. If the top two reserve currencies are not doing very well, then I don't think these forks are going to be doing very well. And what you have to realize with the Ring forks is that many of them, not all of them, many of them rely on these high APY bearing protocols as like their source of revenue for their treasuries. And if those high APY protocols have no external revenue model, then they're all just relying on tokenomics. And at some point, there has to be some revenue model. Now, you can argue that Olympus DAO has bonds as a service, which is effectively true, right? So they're getting revenue by allowing protocols to gain their own liquidity and then pay a fee to Olympus DAO for that opportunity. And that's, true. However, at the same time, I would argue that the revenue generated from Olympus Pro makes up a tiny fraction of Olympus DAO's treasury or market cap. And so it would be difficult for me to say that that's a sustainable model long term unless something dramatically changes. And now Olympus DAO has a very robust DAO, and it's possible that they dramatically change and innovate and evolve. But at that point, I can't say it's going to happen until it happens. Same thing with Time. Like they have a lot of lofty ideas and games and NFTs and maybe metaverse. I don't know. Who knows, right? And they might burn some amount of tokens. And Danny is a big public figure, but until it happens, we can't really bank on it. So until then, it's just hype. So anyways, that's sort of where I'm at with forks and reserve currencies. And poor Tomb got hurt because of the Grim hack. It still has Harry Ye behind it, and I think they've still maintained PEG, which is amazing. But good for them. I know people are now probably doing the manual technique, or they've just left Tomb altogether because of the bad taste of Grim. And it sucks, guys. I know it sucks. So, anyways, those are my thoughts on the state of reserve currencies and forks in general at the moment. So I've sort of de-risked out of all of those, and now I'm sort of, as you probably know from most of my tweets and what I've been talking about lately, I'm looking more into like what are some fun DeFi options protocols that I can, just do some covered calls with. Maybe I want to sell. Maybe I'm trying to exit and I'm looking for a good sell, and I want to get money. I want to get paid to sell my assets. Well, maybe I'll do some covered calls while I'm trying to exit the market. Maybe I'm not trying to hold forever. Who knows? But also I'm looking for like pseudo delta neutral or delta neutral yield strategies. Now, of course, there's always smart contract risks, so you have to be aware of that, right? Smart contract risks are what fucked over people who are in Grim, and those things exist. So I wish the state of audits was better in DeFi, but Grim had issues with their audits a couple weeks or a week prior to the hack. And had people seen that as a red flag, even though it was seemingly unrelated, maybe things would have turned out differently for the people who took those issues seriously and pulled out as a result of, anything that, like, if an auditor ever says anything suspicious and you just pull your money out for a couple weeks, maybe it's a good practice from now on. Who knows? I digress. I do also want to show you guys some opportunities. So the opportunity I want to show you guys is Alpha Homora. We've talked about Alpha Homora before, but I just wanted to show you how to do the pseudo delta neutral on Alpha Homora. If you watched my pseudo delta neutral on Tulip, which I am invested in, by the way, and it's been doing really well. I'm super excited about it. Then you know how this works, right? So I have my metrics here. I'm going to do a leverage of 3. I could do a leverage of 4, but actually this won't let me. I think it's because of there's restrictions on how you can leverage AVAX, so I don't matter. It's fine. But for the sake of this video, we're going to look at the Trader Joe USDC because that's what I have assets. I have USDC, so AVAX USDC, farm. And what I'm effectively trying to do is get a low-ish risk of liquidation and low price impact from the volatility of AVAX and a decent yield. So above 100% is for me decent on a pseudo delta neutral. I'm totally cool with that. I'm getting over 500% on Tulip, but I think that's a much more volatile pair, and there's more risk of the token that I'm pairing with USDC of either doubling or falling by 90% than there is of AVAX doing that, in my personal opinion. So let's just do, I don't know, like, for the sake of showing you how to do this one, let's do 4,000. And the leverage here, we're going to do 3. And so with a leverage of 3, we want to click on advanced and see what they offer. And they actually offer the pseudo delta neutral. Like, this is their default. So that's pretty cool. I like that they do that. So they're giving you like the least risky strategy automatically. So if you're doing a leverage of 3, you do want to have a 75 to 25 ratio, 75% of the token and 25% of the stablecoin. And so what this effectively does is it has your short and your long equal. So if you look at the this sheet that is available, and I'll make it available in the links below, you'll notice that I have 4,000 deposited here, leverage of 3, token price for AVAX 120, and I said the APR is 100%. I know it's like 130%, but I like to be conservative. That way I can, have low expectations and be pleasantly surprised if it goes over. And, maybe this is even kind of high, but you'll see that the borrow, like I have a total of $8,000 being borrowed, 2,000 of that, which is 25% of 8,000, is USDC. 75% of that, which is 6,000, is the token. Now I messed this up in my last video because I thought like this is a 1-to-3 ratio, so for some reason I did 33%, 66%. I'm sorry, that's on me. This is actually 25 to 75% if you do actual math. So what you'll also notice is that the borrow, which is a short, right? When you borrow something, you're effectively shorting it because of the value that goes down. Your debt goes down, which means your value of your holdings goes up. If you have a $10,000 student debt and somehow that student debt's value was cut in half to a $5,000 student debt, you would effectively have $5,000 more to your name, and if you were an investment, you would be worth more now. So when you borrow, you short, and when you pool, you pseudo long because of impermanent loss. It's not like a true long. You don't collect all of the upward price movement. So that's where the pseudo comes here. And it's not an actual long. It's a pseudo long, so it's pseudo delta neutral. Because you'd have to continuously readjust it perfectly if you wanted it to be true delta neutral, which isn't really happening now because you'd have to use like Uni v3 maybe to have that done, and you'd have to have a little, I don't know. There's a lot more behind that. So we're doing pseudo delta neutral, and I think that's fine for me and my risk tolerance. So if you come over here and look at the debt ratio, you'll see that the downward protection is pretty high. It has to go down more than 93%. But if it goes up 30%, then I get liquidated. That's because of the way they calculate debt ratio, which is borrow credit to collateral credit, and each asset has its own calculations for borrow and collateral credit, which is a pain in the butt to access because they don't even list it for the particular assets in their docs. You have to find that elsewhere, which is, again, unfortunate. So, you know, this is not the greatest upward buffer, and so when I'm looking at pseudo delta neutral strategies, I'm looking for large buffers on both sides, not just the downward. And so I'm not a huge fan of the way that they liquidate, or the way that they calculate risk here. So upward, I don't know, 160, that's not too far away, it's 30%, and right now the avalanche is on an uptrend, so it could theoretically hit an all-time high of 160. It's possible. I'm not saying it's likely, but it's, you know, it's within the realm of possibility. So maybe I wouldn't open this particular position, but if, you know, if you want to and you feel comfortable doing that, then you certainly could. You're going to get, you know, an APY of 127, and, you know, if you're bearish on AVAX, you have a lot of downward protection. And the value of this strategy is not going to go down dramatically with downward price mobility. So, you know, right now it's worth, I don't know, the strategy is worth $12,000. This might be from something else. No, is that right? Yeah, $12,000. And if the value of AVAX goes down by 50%, it's still worth $11,500, and that's without accounting for any APY or APR. So that's pretty good. So anyways, that's the delta neutral strategy. That's what I'm feeling in the markets right now. I may open up a small position here, but it's not nearly as safe as the delta neutral with Solana. And I say safe in terms of liquidation risk. I don't say safe in terms of smart contract risks, because you have to actually physically audit these smart contracts yourself if you really want a good feel for that, and you'd have to know how to do that. So there are always smart contract risks associated. Don't throw all of your investments into one of these, because you never know what could be exploited. Again, the 160, I really wish you could do a truer pseudo delta neutral here, where they used LTV instead of debt ratio, because that's just not really a lot of upward protection that I would want from this, you know, strategy. But, you know, I guess you could watch the token value and play it that way if you think that there's not going to be a massive 30% jump in a day, which there probably isn't with you know, the kind of price that you have on Avalanche right now, AVAX. I mean, with the amount of market cap, with the billions of dollars, you're probably not going to see a 30%, which would be literally billions of dollars pumped into it in a day. But, you know, I digress. So on the markets, I'm looking at stable yields. I'm looking at pseudo delta neutral. I'm looking at delta neutral. I'm looking at a few blue chip yield farms. That's sort of where I'm at, you know, getting yields on Ethereum through lending single side, getting yields on Ethereum through pseudo delta neutral, or getting lends on Ethereum through a USDC Ethereum pair. There are plenty of those that give over 70%, and so I think that Ethereum's going to go down in price. If I'm bearish on it short term, then I'm actually going to benefit because my USDC is going to buy into Ethereum or buy into Bitcoin as those go down. So I'm going to accumulate more Bitcoin or more Ethereum in that pair. Yes, I'm experiencing impermanent loss, but I'm accumulating more of these assets that I like anyways. So I'm totally cool with that, as long as I'm bearish on these two tokens for the time being. If the trend switches, like if I'm tracking these if I'm charting these and I see that, you know, if I see that Ethereum, for example, breaks a moving average, breaks upwards here, the green cross over the purple, then maybe I close my position and I open up like a leverage on ETH 2x. That would be totally degenerate, but I could do that sort of, betting on that trend going upwards. Or I could just long Ethereum, right? Or try to look for a single side staking opportunity like Ethereum lending, which I could get, 10% APR on that, while I'm assuming that we're going to get price action upwards. So all those things are sort of where my mind is at right now in the markets. I'm not doing any forks. I'm not jumping into any reflection currencies. So reflection, like I had a bad taste from SafeMoon, and then with reflection currencies, I sort of see them as all forks of one another. They're betting on mechanisms that generally they hit a certain market cap, and then people no longer see them as good investments, and they die very quickly because you're making a bet on an investment, and when all of the FOMO is generating, people will take that tax, right? They'll pay those 20% taxes in and going out in order to jump on the FOMO train. But once the hype is gone, people aren't willing to pay that tax anymore, and so the project quickly dies. So I'm not in reflection tokens either, and you can hate on me all you want. I apologize for saying that, but that's it. Okay. I did want to talk about DopeX, but it's not loading. It's unfortunate. There are some interesting opportunities there with Geom. Feel free to go check that out. Okay, guys, that's it. If you want access to my videos earlier than anyone else, go ahead and join the Patreon. I also post about things there. Like I posted about the DopeX. I did a video just for my patrons about the DopeX and the single side staking options with Geom over there. And I answer questions over there. If you guys have messaged me on Twitter, you'll probably notice I don't respond, at least not within a reasonable time frame. It's just because I have way too many messages, and I'm generally filtering them out for people who like need my service right at that moment. And then if you're just like asking me for investment advice, I'm probably just not going to get to you, because I don't want to say like, no, I'm not going to answer you, because I don't know what the right answer is. Like, what is the polite way to say that's just not what I'm doing here? So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Merry Kwanzaa, I don't know, all of the holidays that you guys may or may not be experiencing. I hope that you guys stay blessed. I hope your investments do well. God bless the lot of you, all of you, every single one of you. And, charity update. So if you're still watching, Charity Tracker. This is what we've done so far from the sponsored video. We have donated over, I don't know how much this is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 plus 3, $7,000. You guys, $7,000 to charity. Hungry Children Foundation, it's a charity in Venezuela. We actually know the guy who runs it, and he is boots on the ground, bringing food to children in super low income areas that wouldn't otherwise have access to food and nutrients. He also brought them a bunch of toys for Christmas, which I thought was amazing. And I'm trying to get him a van because he's like taking a taxi to do all this. Just like he's a good person doing good shit, and I'm all about it. So I give him money because he deserves it. Islamic Relief Foundation. This was particularly for Yemen. I don't know if you know, massive humanitarian crisis in Yemen. Some people have their own feelings about the Islamic Relief Foundation. It's really in terms of getting relief to Yemen, it was the best one I could find. And, I think this is a super important cause because Yemen is like the biggest humanitarian crisis on the planet, arguably. Kids need food, and you're not gonna get me to back down on that. So if it has to go through the Islamic Relief Foundation to get there, then that's what it's got to do. Cambodian Children's Fund. Like, if you've ever been to Cambodia, you know that $1 to $100 can go super far and do a ton of good. So $1,000 there, happy to give it. World Orphans, one of the best ratings for orphanage charities. Like, I think 83+% of all donations go straight into the works, the actual charity, and gets to the people. So great. Hungry Children Foundation, again, that was just, like I said, the guy in Venezuela getting him money because he's doing good stuff. And then the Natural Coalition for Homeless Vets, again, over 80% goes directly to vets and helping with homelessness. I got a soft spot for homeless vets, so you know, I think what they go through psychologically, and like if you look at the suicide rates, it's just, I don't know. Like I said, I got a soft spot, so I don't mind donating to that. So anyways, that's what we did. That's what you guys allowed me to do by watching my channel. And I am incredibly humbled by the perceived impact that we're having with this channel. So I'm humbled. That's it. Thank you guys for making this possible. A year ago, I never could have imagined, like, this is more than 10% of my income back when I was working a full-time job that I just donated in the span of 2 days. So never would have been possible without DeFi, without crypto. So I feel super blessed to be able to do this. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your lives, days, everything. I love you. Goodbye.